Hey there, freedom lover, Erin here with our course update for May 2021, and we are in the land of living in limbo, but I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. To start us off, let's talk about some of the fun stuff that we have been doing this month, because finally, the weather has gotten better. So the first thing, which some of you may or may not have noticed, is once I was fully vaccinated, my first priority was getting a haircut. I was overdue before quarantine started, and then it just got longer and longer and longer. So I am very thrilled to have dramatically less hair, and I did donate the lengths to an organization called Children with Hair Loss. So hopefully that will go to serve some small child who needs it. But I am feeling lighter and springy and very excited to be exploring the life of a vaccinated person who can hopefully do a few more things, including taking risks like that one. So in the meantime, we have been having an absolute blast enjoying the beautiful weather that's been happening for the last few weeks. We started with a great stroll through our old hometown of Salem, Massachusetts. And this was actually a ton of fun because it's a place that we both love dearly, and my daughter really hasn't spent much time there since we launched 2.5 years ago. So it was a great chance to walk around downtown. We had lunch, our first lunch since the weather got nice, at a restaurant outside, and we then went and strolled around on Derby Wharf, which is literally our old stomping grounds. It's right near where we used to live before we became full-time digital nomads. So it was a ton of fun to get to go back to familiar places, show our daughter places that she'd seen before, but it's been a couple of years and toddlers don't remember as much. We got a chance to see the Friendship of Salem, which surprisingly enough, we had a full view of its mooring location the whole time we lived in that area, and it was gone, being repaired. So it was fun to get to see it back and get to show our daughter this awesome old boat. Then we got to have our Beltane celebration, and we actually got to do some fun outdoor stuff going down to see the lilacs at Arnold Arboretum. Now, this is something we've done multiple times in the past, and it was just fun to get to do it again this year. The lilacs were stunning in bloom. They were just starting to head towards peak. We weren't quite there yet. But the big adventure of that particular trip was that somehow we managed to get out of the house, all the way into the car, get her all buckled in, and it wasn't until we were all the way in Boston that we noticed that our daughter was still wearing her slippers and not her shoes. Oops! So she got an absolutely fantastic adventure running around the park in her bare feet, which she thought was phenomenal. And it worked out in the end. So no harm, no foul, and she got some fun playing in the park in her bare feet. Then this most recent weekend was Mother's Day, and I actually have a great resource to recommend to you, which is an app called Adventure Lab. It's very similar to geocaching, where you go around physically in the world and look for physical objects that are these geocaches. Adventure Labs, however, unlike geocaching, basically takes you on these little kind of tours of a particular area, and you're looking for information. So something that's on a sign, or in our case it was on a bench, things like that, that you find only if you're in that space. And then in the app, basically answering a question to confirm, yes, I'm here, and yes, I know the answer to that question. I have found it here. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was an absolute blast. Brian did too. I think our little one was expecting the treasure hunt that we were going on to have, you know, physical treasures. So she was maybe a little less enthused, but she still enjoyed having the adventure out. And in this case, we decided to do one of the adventures that was literally right here in our backyard. And obviously this is an area that Brian and I have spent a large section of our adult lives in. We're very familiar with it. And yet, what I can tell you is it was really fun to get to see some of these things that we're very familiar with either from a different perspective or sometimes things that we had just never had an opportunity to go see before. We started off in Rockport, going to see motif number 1, which is very familiar to many people, but we were actually viewing it from a vantage point that neither of us had encountered before, and it was beautiful. And then we moved into Gloucester, and there were 4 stops in Gloucester. Good Harbor Beach, which I had never had a reason to go to before, and here was a great reason to do so. Then we went to Eastern Point Lighthouse, which, yet again, down a very quiet little private road, had never had a reason to go there before, and so we went all the way to the end of the point and saw the lighthouse. The next stop was the Fisherman's Statue in the middle of Gloucester. And that, of course, we had seen a number of times, but we just happened to have great timing, and we happened to be there when the drawbridge was going up, which, of course, our pumpkin thought was so interesting and so much fun. And then the final stop was at Hammond Castle, which Brian had been to once in the past. He went there apparently for a haunted house in a medieval castle. What's not to love about this? I had actually never been, and it wasn't possible for us to go in that day, but it's a pretty awesome place, and it was nice to get to remember that there's this really cool place right here in our backyard. So 5 locations, getting to explore places that we were somewhat familiar with, but maybe had never seen before, and it was really pretty much a win on the whole day. We were blessed to have some really nice weather, which made it even better. Now, the big question that I know everybody wants to know: where are you going next, Erin? Okay, here's my answer. We still don't know. Bottom line, if you saw our course update from last month, you'll know that we have been kind of in a holding pattern because we have the opportunity to possibly rent a place on Cape Cod for summer and fall. But it only is going to work and become available if the host lands this job offer on Nantucket. She's now had the interview, but we still don't know the result. So we still don't know if that's gonna happen or not. And so we went back to the drawing board and started thinking about our backup options. I will tell you that we have decided to not try and furnish the apartment at my little sister's place out in Western Mass. It just felt like too much of a project for this particular moment in our lives, etc. But we did instead decide to kind of explore a little further afield, which means that our number 2 options, which we now have several possibilities for, would actually take us to Wilmington, North Carolina, which neither Brian nor I have ever been to before. Honestly, it came on my radar because I have been a huge fan of the podcast Extra Pack of Peanuts with Travis and Heather Sherry for many years, and they last year bought a house down there and have been talking up the wonders of Wilmington, North Carolina, and it was enough to get me curious. So we decided we were gonna give it a try and see what we could find down there. So bottom line, we'll either be in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, if that all works itself out, or we're going to be in Wilmington, North Carolina in all likelihood. So I just don't know the answer at the time of recording. Possibly by the time that this gets published, we will have an answer, but as of this moment, we'll see. So that is our course update for now, and we will give you the result of this big suspenseful question in our lives next time in June at our next course update. In the meantime, take care, Freedom Lover. See you soon.